The annual Langston family reunion brunch was in full swing. Sunlight glinted off heirloom silver and crystal glasses as relatives boasted about country club memberships, real estate acquisitions, and Ivy League internships. I sat quietly at the far end of the long dining table in my grandfather's restored Victorian estate outside Savannah, Georgia. Nursing my coffee and listening, my Aunt Maureen whispered loudly to my Uncle Ronald, "Lila's still chasing her little tech dream, isn't she? Such a waste of potential." Their smirks stung, but I stayed silent, used to their jabs. My cousin Eliza, always the centre of attention, dabbed her lipstick-stained napkin and flashed her signature, self-satisfied smile. "Looks like I'll be the youngest investment director in firm history," she said, flicking her perfectly manicured nails. Morgan Stanley practically begged me to take the position. Applause rippled from her parents. My mother nodded with forced enthusiasm. "That's our Eliza, Yale and hedge funds, a true Langston." Eliza leaned toward me, her voice dripping with mock pity. "Lila, don't you ever get tired of playing with your little computers?" The table chuckled, and I gripped my cup tighter, masking my irritation with a polite nod. I offered a polite smile, thinking about the email I'd received just before brunch, confirming that Nexus AI, the fintech AI company I launched 6 years ago, had hit a $4 billion 0 cents valuation, and that Bloomberg had selected me for their Innovators to Watch feature. My father, catching my expression, scoffed softly. "Don't tell me you're still betting on that startup, Lila. You should have joined Eliza's firm years ago." His words cut deeper than Eliza's, but I kept my composure, letting the moment pass. "So what about you, Lila?" Aunt Maureen turned with a syrupy grin. "Still doing that tech thing? AI modelling for financial forecasting," I answered evenly. "And yes, still doing it." To them, I was the eccentric cousin who had turned down Wharton's MBA program to keep working out of a cluttered office in Augusta. Maureen raised an eyebrow, her tone patronising. "Forecasting? Sounds like glorified guesswork. Why not aim for something real like Eliza's deals?" I swallowed a retort, knowing they'd never understand Nexus AI's impact. I was 37 now, and they still treated me like I was chasing some adolescent fantasy. Eliza raised her glass. "That's cute. Tech stuff is fun, but it's not exactly managing 10-figure assets." She had no idea her firm's latest predictive trading tool ran on Nexus AI's engine. Technology I designed. I said nothing. Sometimes the truth doesn't need to be spoken to make its presence known. But Eliza pressed on, sensing weakness. "Come on, Lila, admit it. You're just tinkering while I'm closing billion-dollar deals." Her smugness sparked a flicker of defiance in me, but I held back, letting her bask in her moment. "Lila," my uncle smirked, swirling his mimosa, "ever think about getting a real job? You're not 27 anymore." I thought about the acquisition offers from Microsoft, Google, and Tesla sitting in my inbox, each worth more than the combined real estate portfolio of everyone at the table. "I'm doing just fine," I said, sipping my coffee. Ronald chuckled, leaning back. "Fine? Lila, you're scraping by in that Augusta shack. Eliza's got a corner office and a future." My mother shot him a look but didn't defend me, her silence louder than his words. Eliza gave a theatrical snort. "Right, renting in Augusta, still driving that clunky old Toyota. Meanwhile, I just closed on a condo in Los Angeles." "With your dad co-signing the loan?" I replied lightly. The table went quiet. Eliza's smile twitched. "At least I've done something worthy of that support," she muttered, her tone sharp. "Worthy?" I echoed, my voice calm but edged. "Funny, Eliza, your firm's biggest wins this year came from my tech. Ever wonder who powers your success?" Her eyes narrowed, but she quickly recovered, tossing her head dismissively. "What exactly have you built?" My mother leaned in, her voice gentle but edged with concern. "Girls, let's not do this, Lila. Sweetheart, there's no shame in making a fresh start. Maybe look into something secure." I set down my cup, deliberately. "No need. Bloomberg is interviewing me next week for their tech billionaires cover story." My mother blinked, caught off guard. "Billionaires? Lila, don't exaggerate. You can't be serious." Her doubt fueled my resolve, but I kept my tone even, refusing to give her the reaction she expected. The silence that followed was absolute. I didn't add another word. Uncle Ronald cleared his throat, trying to recover the mood. "Your cousin could help you get a foot in the door at her firm," he said, feigning kindness. "That's right," Eliza chimed in, her voice syrupy. "I'm sure we could find something that fits your skill set, something like data analysis. You're decent with computers, right?" Laughter sprinkled across the table like spilled salt. Even my father cracked a smile. "Decent?" I said, my voice steady but sharp. "My decent work runs half the trading floor at Morgan Stanley. Maybe ask your analysts about Nexus AI." Eliza's smirk faltered, but she waved it off, refusing to engage. "I'm happy where I am," I said neatly, folding my napkin. "Happy being a nobody," Eliza snapped. "Let's face it, Lila, some people lead, others just drift." My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Bloomberg. "A nobody?" I said softly, standing. "Funny, Bloomberg doesn't think so. They're calling me a visionary." Eliza rolled her eyes, but I caught my father's uneasy glance, sensing something shifting. And the next chapter was just beginning. Probably another message from Bloomberg, finalising the press release for tomorrow's global announcement. They'd selected me for their next cover story. Tech visionaries meet Lila Langston, the fintech pioneer reshaping the future of finance. "I should get going," I said, rising from my seat. Eliza scoffed, unable to resist. "Running off to your little cubicle, don't trip over your dreams on the way out." The table laughed, but my mother's eyes lingered on me, a flicker of doubt in her expression. "Early shift at your little office?" Aunt Maureen asked with a theatrical smirk. "Still camped out in that rundown building downtown?" What they assumed was a dusty rented office space in Augusta was actually a facade. The real Nexus AI HQ spanned 3 secured floors in a research park just outside Savannah, complete with advanced cybersecurity, private investors, and a federal grant pipeline. "Rundown," said, pausing. "You should visit sometime, Maureen." "Oh, wait, you'd need clearance to get past security." Her smile froze, and I savoured the brief crack in her confidence. But no one here had ever visited or asked. "You can't leave now," my mother blurted a bit too quickly. "Eliza hasn't even mentioned her new beachfront condo." "Bought with this year's bonus," Eliza said, eyes glittering, "though I guess it's hard to relate when you're still chasing that startup dream." "A bonus you earned riding my algorithms," I said coolly. "Ever think about who's really driving your firm's profits?" Eliza's face flushed, but she recovered with a forced laugh, deflecting the tension. I paused in the doorway, hand resting on the carved walnut frame. "You know what's strange?" I said, turning slowly. "Not once has anyone asked what my company actually does." "Why would we?" Eliza shrugged, sipping her wine. "It's not like you're revolutionizing finance." If only she knew. Nexus AI's algorithms had accelerated trading strategies across 3 continents. Our work was quietly being deployed in national economic models. Revolutionizing? I said, my voice low. "My tech's why your firm hit record profits last quarter. Check the fine print on your trading software." Eliza's glass paused mid-sip, her confidence wavering. "We were developing AI frameworks that could one day eliminate market inefficiencies. But yes, just playing around." "Maybe you're right," I said, adjusting the strap on my French leather tote. "Some of us are just wired differently." Finally admitting I've won. Eliza smirked, sipping her wine. "No," I replied, thinking about tomorrow's reveal. "Just saying we defined victory on different terms." "Victory," Eliza laughed sharply. "Lila, you're delusional if you think you're on my level." I met her gaze, unflinching. "We'll see who's delusional tomorrow." She blinked. "What does that mean?" I smiled. "Oh, and Eliza. Yeah, you should check tomorrow's Bloomberg." "Why?" Eliza scoffed. "Did they run another fluff piece on women in tech startups?" "Something like that," I said, smiling faintly. I stepped out into the crisp southern evening, the scent of salt air and jasmine drifting on the breeze. As I walked away, I heard Eliza mutter to my mother, "She's bluffing. No way she's in Bloomberg." My mother's hesitant reply followed, "What if she's not?" Laughter still rang from the dining room behind me, but it felt distant now, like a show I'd long since stopped watching. My phone buzzed again as I reached the gravel drive near the guest parking area. Not where I actually parked, but where they assumed I had. Tucked around the corner beneath a canopy of pine trees was my real car, a sleek silver Rivian R1S. I glanced back at the house, imagining Eliza's smug grin. She'd be pacing tomorrow when Bloomberg dropped the truth. I slid into the driver's seat. The custom leather interior glowed with soft blue light as the dashboard came alive. One new message. Confirmed live at 10:00 a.m. MPST, July 9, 2026. Congratulations again, Lila. I let out a slow breath, then smiled, turned the key and drove away from the Langston estate, away from the old narratives, the small minds, the subtle jabs wrapped in wine and silverware. My phone buzzed again. My father. Lila, is this Bloomberg thing real? I didn't answer. Let him sweat it out until morning. Tomorrow, the world would know, and so would they. Back at the table, I imagined Uncle Ronald still droning on. Your cousin could probably help you land an entry-level gig at her firm, he'd say, tone soaked in condescension. That's right, Eliza would add sweetly. I'm sure there's something basic you could handle, maybe filing or help desk. I mean, you're okay with computers, right? But in my mind, I saw Eliza's face tomorrow, staring at her phone as Bloomberg's headline hit. Lila Langston, the fintech titan. Laughter would float again across the long antique table. Even my father might chuckle, but I'd be gone by then. I was happy where I was, not because it was easy, but because it was mine. Some people are built for imitation, others for innovation. And me? I was already rewriting the future. My phone lit up with a text from my mother. Lila, please, just tell us what's going on. I ignored it, focusing on the road ahead, where my real life waited. One headline at a time. Early meeting tomorrow? Aunt Maureen asked with a smirk, swirling the last of her Chardonnay, at that little shared office space you rent in Augusta. What they assumed was a second-hand office squeezed between auto shops was just a decoy. The real Nexus AI headquarters sat inside a secure research campus outside Savannah, spanning 3 private floors flanked by military-grade server banks in a clean room under federal contract. Shared space? I'd said earlier. My voice calm. Maureen, my campus has tighter security than your gated community. She'd laughed it off, but I'd seen her falter. But no one here had cared enough to find out. You can't leave yet, my mother added quickly, trying to lighten the mood. Eliza hasn't even mentioned her new summer condo on Santa Monica. A year's performance bonus, Eliza said proudly. But I suppose real success is hard to recognize when you're still tinkering. Tinkering? I'd shot back, my patience thinning. My tinkering is why your firm's stock doubled last year. You're welcome. Eliza's eyes flashed with anger, but she hid it behind a tight smile. I paused at the ornate doorway, my hand resting on the carved walnut frame. You know what's funny, I said, turning back. In all these years, not one of you has asked what my company actually does. Why would we? Eliza shrugged, sipping her wine. It's not like you're reshaping markets or anything. If only she knew. Reshaping? I said, my voice cutting through the room. Nexus AI runs the backbone of global trading. Your firm's just a client, Eliza. One of many. Her jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Nexus AI was accelerating investment pipelines for major financial institutions. Our systems had reduced trading timelines by 40%. We were building tools that could personalize financial strategies for every investor on Earth. But sure, just tinkering. Maybe you're right, I said, lifting my French leather bag, one that cost more than her entire wine fridge. You'll see, I added, my voice low but firm. Tomorrow, when Bloomberg tells the world you'll wish you'd asked sooner. Eliza's laugh was brittle, but I saw the unease in her eyes. Maybe some of us are just wired differently. Finally admitting I'm ahead, Eliza asked, eyes gleaming. No, I said, already picturing tomorrow's Bloomberg headline. Just saying, we don't all define success the same way. She blinked. What does that mean? I smiled. Oh, and Eliza. Yeah, you should check tomorrow's Bloomberg. Check it? She snapped. I don't need to read about your pipe dreams, Lila, I shrugged, unfazed. Suit yourself. But ignorance won't change the truth. Why? She laughed. Did they highlight another local startup? Something like that, I said, already halfway down the front steps. Not the dusty Civic I use for family events, but my real car tucked behind the hedges, a sleek silver Rivian R1S. I slid into the driver's seat, the interior bathed in the subtle blue glow of its custom dashboard. My phone buzzed again. Eliza texting, "You're full of it, Bloomberg? Please," I smirked, deleting the message without a reply. One new message. Bloomberg cover confirmed. Link goes live at 10 a.m. PST July 9, 2026. Congratulations again, Lila. I smiled, turned the engine over with a low purr, and pulled out of the Langston estate, leaving behind the echo of old doubts, forced smiles, and selective memory. Tomorrow, the world would know, and so would they. As I drove, I pictured Eliza's shock. My parents' scrambling apologies and the family group chat exploded. They'd underestimated me for the last time. If you've ever been underestimated by the people who are supposed to believe in you most, hit that subscribe button and follow what comes next. Because trust me, everything is about to change. I know, I said calmly into my headset, voice steady. I personally rejected your last 3 acquisition offers. The price wasn't even close. Rejected? Eliza's voice cracked through the line. Lila, you're lying. You can't afford to turn down millions. I laughed softly. Billions, actually. Check your math. There was a clatter on the other end, glass shattering maybe. Then Eliza's voice, shrill with disbelief. You're my vendor. I've been bragging about our success using your platform. I leaned back in my ergonomic chair, seated in the corner office of Nexus AI's private headquarters. Funny, isn't it? I said. All those times you offered me an entry-level position, you were pitching it to your company's tech supplier. Supplier? She spat. I made you relevant, Lila. Without my firm, you'd be nothing. I let her words hang, then replied coolly. Funny, I was about to say the same about you. My phone beeped. Incoming call. Mum and Dad. Long second, Eliza. I said, switching lines. Hi, Mum. Dad. Lila Lynn Langston. My mother snapped, voice sharp with old authority. What is the meaning of this? The meaning of what? In this Bloomberg article. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you what? That I built something that mattered. You never asked. We asked plenty, my mother retorted. You just mumbled about tech nonsense. How were we supposed to know? I sighed. By listening, Mum, just once. You were too busy clapping for Eliza's bonus and condole. But $6 billion? 0 cents? My father broke in, stunned. That's more than the combined net worth of our entire extended family? I finished, voice calm. Yes, by a long shot, actually. I tapped my screen, pulling up my executive dashboard from Nexus AI's investor console. 6 billion? My father repeated, his voice trembling. Lila, why hide this from us? I didn't hide, I said. You just didn't look. Oh, and Dad, I added almost gently, you might want to review your retirement portfolio. Those safe stocks you always talked about at dinner. What about them? He asked, suddenly cautious. I hold controlling shares in most of those companies now. A sharp inhale, silence. Lila, we never meant to ridicule you, doubt you, treat your work like a phase unless it fit into our template. Never meant to, I said, my voice steady but cold. You did it anyway, every branch, every jab, every laugh. I said, not angry, just done. The line went quiet. You know what's funny? I continued. If either of you had Googled Nexus AI any time in the last 6 years, this wouldn't be news to you. Another beep. Eliza was back. This is ridiculous, she snapped. I did everything right. Ivy League private equity, the partner track, and I built something real. Real, I cut in. Eliza, your real is built on my code. Without Nexus AI, you'd be crunching numbers in a cubicle. I said, I created, I led, I scaled a company from concept to market leader. I let that sit for a moment, then added casually, oh, and Nexus AI is reassessing all vendor contracts next week. That includes your firm. You can't be serious, Eliza barked. Why not? I replied smoothly. Isn't that what you kept telling me to learn? Learn? Learn, she shrieked. I don't need lessons from you, Lila. I'm the star here, I smiled. Stars fade, Eliza. Systems endure. A knock. My assistant, Sarah, peeked in. Miss Langston, CNBC is setting up for your segment. You're live in 20. Thanks, Sarah. I turned back to the phone. Lila, my mother jumped in, about that little office you rent downtown. Oh, that, I said, laughing softly. I actually own the entire research campus, all 6 buildings. Own? My mother gasped. Lila, how could you keep this from us? I didn't, I said. You just assumed I was failing. Before they could say another word, I ended the call. The wall of ultra-wide monitors in front of me lit up. Real-time updates from Nexus AI's global teams. London, Singapore, Boston. AI systems humming with precision, feeding breakthroughs into live financial data sets. My phone buzzed again. Eliza, we need to talk about the vendor contract. Mum, dinner this week? Just us? I ignored them, picturing Eliza's panic as her firm's contract hung in the balance. She'd learned soon enough who held the power. I let out a long breath. Success hadn't changed me. It had just made ignoring me impossible. Dad, I always believed in you, sweetheart. Aunt Maureen, your cousin needs a door opened. Can't Lila help her? I silenced the phone. Then I adjusted the lapel of my navy blazer, smoothing the fabric as I turned toward the studio. My phone buzzed again. Uncle Ronald. Lila, let's talk. Eliza says you're causing trouble, laughed, muting him. Trouble? No, just truth. The CNBC team was prepping final sound checks below the scrolling headline ticker. The banner read, Nexus AI reshapes global finance. Lila Langston, the billionaire they overlook. Sarah appeared at the doorway again, slightly breathless. Ms. Langston, your cousin Eliza just arrived downstairs. She's demanding to see you. I tapped the edge of my tablet and pulled up the security feed. There she was. Power suit crisp, heels sharp, clinging to the Bloomberg magazine like it was oxygen. Demanding? I said, my voice calm. Tell her to take a number. I'm not her assistant. Her eyes darted as she argued with reception, the image of someone no longer in control. She can schedule a meeting through vendor channels, I said, voice level, just like everyone else. Sarah hesitated. And your parents? They're on their way up. I gave a soft, amused laugh. Tell security I'm unavailable. I have a company to lead. Unavailable? Sarah repeated, surprised. I nodded. They had years to talk. Now they can wait. All those family brunches where I stayed quiet, letting them talk over me, laugh past me, dismiss me. But this wasn't brunch. This was global broadcast. And as I stepped into the studio, the lights hit me. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. I was exactly where I belonged. The crew whispered, impressed by my calm. I thought of Eliza downstairs, unraveling, and my parents, scrambling to rewrite their neglect. The CNBC anchor smiled, her tone warm but inquisitive. Miss Langston, you've built one of the most transformative companies in fintech AI, yet managed to fly completely under the radar until now. How did no one see this coming? I tilted my head slightly, considering. Some people only see what they expect to see, I said. They measure success in square footage, last names, and loud titles. They see flash, I added, my voice steady. I built substance. That's why they missed me. But innovation doesn't always look the way they've been taught to recognize it. It doesn't always come from the noisiest voice in the room or the most polished resume. Behind my calm expression, I thought of Eliza still downstairs, pacing in frustration, and my parents rushing to rewrite their version of history. I pictured their faces tomorrow, glued to CNBC, realizing their failures was reshaping the world. And now, the anchor asked, now that the spotlight is finally on you? Now, I said, a quiet smile tugging at the corner of my lips. They'll see the future shaped by someone they once overlooked, because this moment wasn't the peak, it was the ignition point. Nexus AI's next phase, merging financial AI with adaptive quantum security, would make today's $6 billion 0 cents valuation look like a mere footnote. Now, I continued, my voice firm. They'll learn what happens when you bet against the quiet one. My phone buzzed briefly beside me. Eliza, please, I need this contract. My bonus depends on it. I didn't even look twice. I powered the screen off with a single swipe. The studio light turned red. We were live because real builders, we don't chase applause, we create, we leave. And as the cameras rolled, I felt the weight of every doubt, every laugh, every dismissal fall away. This was my stage now. And even when recognition lags behind, we keep changing the world. So if you've ever been the quiet one, dismissed, underestimated, told you're not realistic, I hope my story reminds you. You don't need validation to build something incredible. I didn't create Nexus AI to prove anyone wrong. I built it because I believed in the science, even when no one else did. I built it, I said to the camera, because I knew the world needed it, even if my family didn't. And now the same people who rolled their eyes at my ideas are sending in meeting requests. If my journey resonates with you, leave a comment. Tell me where you are in your story. I read everyone. Let's grow a community where the underestimated become the unstoppable. And if no one's told you this before, let me be the first. You are worth betting on. Bet on yourself. I added, my voice steady, because I did, and it changed everything. Hit subscribe if you believe success doesn't need permission, because I'm not done building. And together we're going to change the narrative. Lila Langston.